Good morning. Good morning. Happy Sunday morning live. It is Jillian straight at you from Canton, Ohio. I've been just blowing my nose a little bit more this morning because my body was exposed to a pathogen it didn't recognize. It went through the processes in my body and I actually hacked out a green mucus this morning. Well, what's a green mucus? That is an antigen, an infection in your body that is being released. And I didn't feel any major symptoms. I think the only symptom that could potentially be is just being tired. The last couple of days, I think I took a nap around 3 o'clock in the afternoon for about 2 days. But still got up at 6 in the morning, still took care of my stuff, but I needed to just take a nap, at least an hour out of each of the 2 days. So if that was the only thing that was different, then hacking out a green mucus, that's amazing. So at some point, you guys will be exposed to pathogens your body doesn't recognize, and you won't suffer any crazy symptoms that would make you think that you'd have to call in sick or it would really take you down. You might be tired and that's it, and then you just go and take a nap, and then there you go. That's it. And so you would never know that you were ever exposed to pathogens, aggressive ones, because your body is working that much stronger. And you won't be going through the specific obvious processes that people see when they get exposed to pathogens. So anyways, since now I'm not taking any sides anymore and I don't have a specific news outlet that I just stick to, because I noticed that people who are still stuck in the conspiracy world would not take any information from anything mainstream, like nada. And that is not now the purview that I'm in. I am not boycotting NBC Universal. I'm not boycotting CBS, ABC, even NPR, even IFL Science. I fucking love science. Because I remember back in the conspiracy world, I would not at all listen to anything. Hey, Gail. I would not listen to anything that was from IFL Science, NBC, ABC, CBS, all of that. And I would stick to only Natural News and InfoWars, and then, all the other conspiracy world. I don't know, what was the other one? beforeitsnews.com. Oh my God. And that's all conspiracy stuff. And then people get led down a crazy ass path. So I shared something around ALS and ancient viruses. Because here's the thing, guys. We are heading into some kind of global warming, okay? I mean, even if you don't think it's true, that's fine. Are each of us going to go to the different poles, North Pole and the South Pole, and test the glaciers to see how much they're melting? No. So we have to rely on some kind of science out there. We have to. I mean, there's no other way around it, because we're not going to go and confirm ourselves if those specific glaciers are melting. So potentially there are viruses that are out there in these glaciers that are being brought to surface. Okay? That is a potential. I don't rule it out. It is obviously something that we need to consider, because Earth has gone through its cycles. Okay, if we study enough of the science history, at least from, elementary school, and you can call it brainwashing, you can call it, if you're anti-government, call it brainwashing, whatever the case may be, Earth and humans have gone through cycles. And you can see that just even in our society within the last 300 or 400 years. Humanity has gone through different cycles. So Earth has gone through different cycles. You see the cycles just even in the 4 seasons. Okay? So there are definitely viruses, because we see the viruses. Viruses, we just look at what we have currently to look at today. These are viruses. Okay? These are the current viruses that we're exposed to today. And this is what's causing all of your cancer, disease, and chronic illness. Then you go to the way north and the way south, and you have frozen viruses. You have animals that have been frozen and petrified, well, frozen. And then they're full of viruses. And then we can see, I mean, this is the thing, is that when you defrost some of these animals from way back thousands and thousands and thousands of years ago, there could be an ancient virus that is being exposed or being released. Or it's like when you open up the tombs. I heard that when you open up the tombs over in Egypt, the big pyramids, that some of the viruses that were in there that probably killed off some of the kings were released, and some people were they said it's a curse, but I'm thinking it could be a virus that was released that's inside, that was entombed. And when you open up the tomb and all these these pathogens that are in there that caused the death at the time, people who were in those tombs were exposed to it, and then their body succumbed to it. And who knows, that could have been possibly the reasoning behind all of this, because of the fact that we are going into ancient tombs and going into parts of the world that hasn't been like explored by modern man, and then we've been exposing ourselves to a lot of different pathogens. So yeah, so NBC says something about that ALS could be from an ancient virus. Okay. Hey, Bonnie. And it could potentially be true, because viruses have been around for years and years and years, and we have these weird new diseases. Now, you could say that, oh yeah, it's biotech, they're playing with, it's the Nazi experiments, Operation or Project Paperclip, and we took the Nazis from World War II and brought them to America, and we now plot it against the United States people and the United States government, and this is just their way of playing with us, and I'm just like, I believed all that. I mean, I'm sure there's probably an element of truth to Operation Paperclip, Project Paperclip, but you take data. You can have so many different perspectives on data that you really have to look at, at really, is that truly the intention? Was it truly the intention to take the Nazi scientists, bring them to America, so that way we can decimate the American population as well as the world? I mean, come on. It gets a little bit ridiculous over time. So when I share stuff from mainstream media, and then I see people trying to question, people that have been in my protocol, that say they've been in my protocol, that I know are still part of the conspiracy world, their significant others are still part of the conspiracy world. Hey, thank you, Papa. And you're questioning my information, you're not doing enough of the J juice. You talk a good game, but you're not doing enough of the J juice. And it shows, because why would you question? Why would you question, right? Because I don't share everything. You could have a person that you don't like, and not that you don't like them as a person, you don't like some of their their actions, you don't like some of their belief systems, but they may have a few gems here and there, because every single person has something to offer. Good morning, Christoph. They always have something to offer. At least maybe one or two gems out there. Maybe out of just like with Trump, there might be a lot of things about Trump you don't like, but maybe he has a few things that he may actually be right on about. But a lot of people like to throw away the baby with the bathwater. A lot of people like to throw away the baby with the bathwater because they don't like a person. They will throw everything away that they say and not even consider any of the information. And I'm going to say that's not the purview that J juicers need to be on. We need to be discerning with, I guess is what people say, we need to be discerning with the information that comes at us. And sometimes the information is very relevant in the context that we're working with. Maybe I don't like the NBC's, scrutiny on Trump and how they're always messing with Trump. And if you're a pro-Trump person, you're not going to like NBC, CBS, ABC, CNN, because you don't like them attacking Trump. So it means that nothing that they say is going to have any relevance to you. Well, that's not how we need to be looking at information. Sometimes NBC will attack your favorite candidate, but they might actually have something relevant to say in the science world. Learn how to discern, not come from this whole if I don't like NBC, there's nothing that they can offer me of any relevance, because you're throwing away valuable information that you could potentially be understanding and using and plugging into a different context in your own world. Okay, so that's some of the things that I've been noticing with some of the people that in my world that have been on the J juice, or say they've been on the J juice, say they've been a supporter. but yet they just can't seem to just stop poking me. And eventually I get tired of being poked. When you poke somebody enough times, it's called being triggered. And when somebody triggers you and you keep giving them chances, you say, okay, please do not trigger me. Please do not go into the conspiracy world around this. Please do not force me into this group. Triggers are the one things that will tell you whether or not someone's crossing a boundary. And it's up to you to either, set the communication straight or cut off the communication. And that's really only two choices when you get triggered. It's only your fault when you keep allowing somebody to keep triggering you. Okay? That's the only way a person can really be, a personal person that is getting triggered can be at fault, is the fact that they've allowed those triggers. And I did for a while, allowed to be triggered by a lot of people, but not only my own people, but from all of my naysayers. Because I let them, because I was that close to them. Okay? When the only way that you get triggered is when you allow somebody because you're that close to them. If you're getting triggered a lot, it's time to step away. Because if a person on that side can't step away from triggering you, then you got to be the one to step away. And that's really all it comes down to. So yeah, I mean, I struggle with this because I know that, that we all can learn from different people. We all can. People have gone to me and said, hey, you should learn from this guy. You should learn from that guy. There's something relevant here, something relevant there. And there's always something relevant with every single person. There always is. But you have to realize we have probably thousands and thousands and thousands of people who are gurus, who have a spin on any type of information out there. Some information is very relevant and will fit in the context of JJuice. Other information I don't agree with. And I will say it, if I have a conversation with somebody, I'll say, okay, well, I get where he's coming from here, but right here, I really can't get on board with this purpose or this area here. But I like what he has to say here. Okay? I'm not going to probably be a joiner of your group or of your people, of the things that you are promoting. JJuice is, I'm coming from a very specific standpoint, that every type of balance that we're trying to achieve is going to come from biochemistry first off. Body, mind, and spirit in the world of JJuice will be aligned if you're coming from a biochemical standpoint. Now, I know others think that there's two different standpoints to come from, biochemical and then this energy thing. Okay, I'm not discounting your belief system, no different than somebody believing in Jesus Christ and believing Krishna stuff and believing all these different religions, okay? That's okay. You are entitled to your belief. But where I'm coming from as far as the JJuice, the body, mind, and spirit are all actually one, and they're controlled by a biochemistry, by the periodic tables. Okay? Your biochemistry, your belief system on energies and shifting and whatever it is that you believe that's out there, which we'll go into later, is all based on chemistry. Air can be chemistry. Hormones are chemistry. Energy is chemistry. Energy is chemistry and it's biochemical. Your thought process on energy, what causes cancer, disease, and chronic illness, is a misalignment of your chemistry. And it's going to translate and manifest through whatever medium that you choose to communicate with, as well as your physical body. Okay? And so when we talk about immortality, all right, immortality is when you're getting all of the body, mind, and spirit aligned, not just the spirit. There are some people that focus only on the spirit, and then when they focus on the body, they're focusing on turmeric, honey, all these different antibiotics, and that's misalignment because that's anti-life. How can you have a body, mind, and spirit completely aligned when you're dealing with things that are misaligning with the spirit? Okay? Antibiotics and viruses are misaligned with the body, mind, and spirit if you want to be well balanced, because it's not pro-life. And so this is the thing that I'm trying to get across. And so I won't collaborate or join any groups or or watch any more videos than I have. Believe me, because I'll tell you what, if I'm meant to collaborate with anybody in any specific way, believe me, I would already be gravitating towards them. They would already be gravitating towards me. We would be back and forth, really trading information. And I do that. I do that with Kevin. I do that with Bridget. I do that with a lot of people, okay? Because we get it. We're back and forth. It's not just me chasing them and someone trying to force me to align myself with them. No, that person who they're trying to match me up with would also be accepting my friend request, would be in my group, would be active in my group, talking about their experience along with what they're doing, with their, with their concept. They would be integrating my concept and matching the two. But I find that when people are on their own trip, whatever it is, just like I am, they're not going to be part of the Jilly Juice followers, just like I'm not going to be part of their whatever following. It's got to be to where either I'm going to go and be active in their group, but then they don't adopt any of my stuff, then there's no point. There is no whatever, I don't know. There is no symbiosis going on. So you can't force two people who have their own ideas together unless both of them, and I've put out all of my stuff. I have wanting to see a person's thought process and how you do that when you want to integrate a thought process that right now off the bat it may not be right, but it's like a transition, and how do relationships begin? It's when one or two people observe each other and they like what they have to see and they both are on the same page. You just can't throw somebody in a mix of something, especially if I said that, the whole point of J-Juice, it's not like, a separation of biochemical and energy, because I've said millions of times that some people still don't really, really, they get, but they don't, that really it's the chemical and it's the biochemistry that makes up the body, mind, and spirit. Because I know, and I've seen when I finally get my body well balanced, I don't need to turn to things that manipulate my energy to make me feel a certain way. When I go through specific processes that I have to deal with, let's say from the whole thing with the media. Remember April 1st, I was going off on the media and just having a major issue with everybody that's been talking smack. I had to go through that process. Now, could me getting some energy manipulations and smoking pot and doing all these different things could have helped me through that? It could have stilted and stunted my growth when I would manipulate my hormones or take drugs to deal with that whole situation. I had to go through my process. And sometimes you have to. Sometimes when you guys are dealing with your healing symptoms, you have to go through the difficulties. It's not always going to be fun, love, and light. Okay? The world isn't all about love, 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 love all the time. That's what I keep saying about when I was kind of pissing on the empaths for a minute, because that's where my head was at. But I was trying to make a point, but it didn't really come out diplomatic. But nothing really comes out diplomatic when everything is raw. When you love, love, love something, when you over love something, that's an imbalance, and that can be a turnoff. Because you can overlove, you can love somebody to the point of where you're not putting up boundaries, you're not honoring boundaries, and you're not giving people space because you're loving them so much. And then that is overwhelming to the person receiving that, and then it's a turnoff. Then it needs to be repelled. Okay, but I find that, love and hate are spiritually connected, and that's one of my posts on my timeline, is that love and hate are spiritually connected. But it's easier to work with someone that loves you, but you have to look at and figure out the behaviors, because someone say they love you, but then you look at the behavior and their actions in their own world, and it's completely the opposite. Not that they don't love you, but that they're doing something completely opposite. So the love that they're giving you is really not sincere and authentic. It's more of like, I don't know, something that to help them versus really helping the relationship as a whole. So then that's when you have to repel that, because you realize that it's not really love that they're giving you. They're just dealing with their own stuff. But then there's other people that love you, that want you to see where they're coming from. But we already have a fundamental difference. But it's still easier to work with them because they still love the J-Juice. They know that it's a major component in their life, but they want me to adopt something that I'm not ready to adopt yet. And who knows? I'm not saying that I'm never going to honor or look at information that's out there, and I have, and I've looked at the information that I see that that what they're coming from, and I just don't agree, and then that's it. I mean, that's no big deal. But no matter what, with the whole thing with the J juice, it can fit with any belief system out there. So if you believe in like, I don't know, that everybody lives forever, right? Which is what I believe, that everybody does live forever if they're in the right conditions. And we're going to have a collective evolution where everybody's on the same page, and then we're going to go off into eternity and hold hands and all that stuff. Okay, great, that's perfect. Maybe that will be in the future, but right now we know that's not a possibility. We still got to get this information out to those that really don't understand this. And so I'm not looking that far. I mean, I look far enough to say, okay, these are the possibilities of J-Juice, but I'm not looking at this whole futuristic of where J-Juice is gonna, where we're ultimately gonna end up. And if you think that having bad memories, and this is one of the things that someone was talking about in this, is about memories. And I had to talk about like memories and near-death experiences. You know, those are based upon, well, it's biochemical, it's neurological, especially with the near-death experience, it's neurological. It's stuff in the brain and your body and things and that happen during certain times of mutations and chaos in your body and all that. Okay, so I know it's neurological. I know it's something to do with angels. I mean, people say yeah, it could be to do with angels, but in the world of J-Juice, everything can be complained and explained by science. Everything can be explained by science. Okay. When it comes to death and cancer and mortality and immortality, it's biochemical, straight up. Because if you don't apply the right elements, the right chemistry to the body, no matter how much spirituality you believe in, no matter how many angels you believe in, no matter how many energies you want to manipulate in your body, if you don't have the biochemistry, if you don't have the right chemistry bringing into your body, it doesn't matter what you believe in, you're going to die. Immortality is the ability to have life to where you're living life indefinitely. Okay, and then when there is homeostasis interruptions, you're able to adapt to it. But if you're playing in the antibiotics, you're not focusing on the right formula, the right type of food item that's in the food supply, then your belief system, which is perfectly fine, is only going to be temporary. Okay, because you're going to die. Yeah, you may pass on some information to your predecessors, not predecessor, to your offspring, but it's going to get mutated based upon their belief systems and their mutations, because anytime you pass on information, it's going to be then communicated through their perceptions and their mutations. And who knows, it's like playing telephone. You know, when you play telephone, at the end, the message is now completely off base because it's gone through so many different people with their perceptions of the information. So if you don't want to have that type of mutation in your message, you have to continuously live to keep sending the message. But if you die, then that message dies with you, and then somebody else takes it and then mutates it. And then now the message isn't what it was. It's not organic. It's now being gone through so much modifications. Okay. So, so I was doing, you know, I was watching Netflix. I took a day off, watching Netflix, and I was watching like this alien stuff with my husband, and he likes the alien stuff, and you know, we're looking at what aliens are, and the whole thing with SETI, and then the whole radio signals, and my husband's in the CB radio world, and he likes to play with big antennas and big radios, and he's really good at that kind of stuff. And I realized that, you know, everything in our body is electric. There's signals. We have batteries in our body, okay, cell batteries. It's energized by salt. Pain is basically like a radio signal, because when I was watching that movie, it's called like Acknowledge or Unacknowledged or something, and SETI is trying to send out radio signals, and they're getting like these little tiny signals back. They're very weak signals, and they're trying to figure out what they are. I mean, I'm trying to figure out, is it a bacteria or is it an actual alien that's sending these signals back? And I'm looking at it and I'm trying to apply it to the human body, and I'm like, oh wait, hold on a second. Isn't pain, when pain happens, that's a radio signal of life. That's a sign of life. When you get a ping back, when these scientists that go and send off all these different signals out there in the universe, hoping to hear something back, and they get something back, that's a sign of life. Now, what kind of life, we don't know, but that's a sign of life. Something has created enough energy to respond to the signal that we sent out there. And I'm like, hold on a second. Our body is like one big antenna. Our body is one big life form, and pain is a radio signal. What happens is, if you don't hear anything back out there from outer space, then we can make it mean that there's no sign of life, or the life forms that are out there are too afraid to ping back, lest we might go and kill them, because we've obviously exemplified killing in our society. So no different than in our bodies, when we have a radio signal, like your body is screaming, saying, hey, I'm in pain, there's a sign of life, we're trying to heal. And then you go and take an ibuprofen, you go and get chemotherapy, which I completely understand, you go and take cannabis and all these different immune suppression, pain suppression type methodologies. You're basically squelching that life signal, that radio signal that says there's a sign of life in your body. Because once you have no pain, no radio signal, that means you're dead or you're a freaking zombie. So it's like, you can find correlation to the J-juice and the pain and the signals in every aspect of society, in every interest, in every industry, in every interest, in every religion. You can find a correlation of J-juice in it. I mean, just like with the plants and the perennials versus the annuals and the biennials. Okay, if you're into landscaping and plants, you're now going to see that J-juice is trying to be like a perennial. There's a specific maturity point. So 1 to 2 to 3 years for some perennials maturity point. For humans, it's maybe like 15 or 16 years of gaining to maturity. And then once you reach maturity, now it's life. And these perennials can adapt to the changing conditions. Just like, look at your trees out there. How do they seem to like go into dormancy when it's snowing outside in Ohio? And then spring comes, you see all these blossoms and new leaves and new growth and new flowers, and maybe fruit drops, and then in the fall the leaves turn brown, and then the trees look all like, they're dead, but they're not. They're just in dormancy because they're adapting to the changing conditions. Just like a bear, when like animals out there, they hibernate during the winter. There's a specific process to it, and where they beef up during the spring and the summer. And then in the fall, they beef up some more. And in the winter, they're like living off their fat in their little caves. And then, in the springtime, they have their babies, and people are taking pictures of the babies, and that's great. Okay. That's adaptation. So with humans, we can adapt to our environment. And so we're seeing people are just like flipping out on the 5G and the chemtrails and, and the GMO and the Monsanto and all this other stuff. And they don't realize that unless you're in a gas chamber, you're not going to die. Okay, so unless you're in some kind of garage with all the windows closed and you turn the car on, yeah, that's carbon monoxide poisoning. In the gas chambers, the concentration camps in World War II, that is some kind of gas poisoning. Obviously, your body is not going to adapt to that because you're getting overwhelmed. When you get too much poison in your body, guess what? Antibodies get built up, and then it destroys and shuts down the organs. Okay, so if you have just changing conditions, so you have chemtrails, so you have 5G, assuming you believe in chemtrails, contrails, chemtrails, whatever you want to call it. So you have Monsanto, so you have pesticides. Okay, your body, and so you have tap water. Your body, when it's well balanced, will be able to filter out any excess elements that you're being exposed to because of changing conditions, and then keep what it needs. The body has an intelligence that you're not aware of because you think you have to control every mechanism in your body. And when you think you have to control every single mechanism in your body, even though you really can't control the involuntary stuff, you're going to be over supplying yourself with certain minerals. When someone says, oh yeah, I think I'm vitamin D deficient, copper deficient, vitamin C deficient, guess what? They take all of these supplements and these things that they think is all full of vitamin C and vitamin D, and they've just basically caused an imbalance. They're already over mineralized because they have these types of issues where they think they have these imbalances and these deficiencies. And so when you're over mineralized, you take in more minerals, guess what? You're just now causing more imbalances. And that is the whole baby, which is not really the intention, but it's more of a marketing thing of the holistic industry and the allopathic. The allopathic is about suppressing and manipulating your immune system in your body to fit your expectations. You want to be pain-free. You want to have basically a relative homeostasis in the world that you chose. That's what they give you until you pass away. Okay? So, let me go down my timeline really quick. So yeah, so hey, if you're afraid to do J juice right off the bat, you don't want to, like, you're not useful. You don't want to taste it, you don't want to drink it because you're afraid it might do something right off the bat, and you're just looking to transition yourself onto it in some way, shape, or form, and you want to still see the benefits without having the waterfalls and feel like you're going to throw up. Well, first you need to make it. So you get used to the smell and how to make it. Okay? So here's how you do this. You make it. You let it sit for however long, and then you have topical issues. You have pain in different parts of your body. People that use cortisone and creams for specific things, you can actually trade those for the J juice. But here's the thing. So if you want to transition onto J juice and you have eczema and psoriasis and all these different things, use the J juice on it. If you get a cut because you're gardening, use the J juice. So here's a testimony from somebody that put it on their child or their grandchild. My grandson has been suffering with ingrown toenails. It started to look infected the other night, so I filled a bowl with my juice, which is J juice, and made him seep his toe in it. Then I soaked some cotton balls and placed them on his toes for about an hour. The next morning he said, "Nana, my toes stopped hurting," and was able to put his sock on without pain. Needless to say, the whole family are impressed. Slowly they are coming around to the benefits of the amazing juice. So if you're afraid to take J juice internally because you're afraid of the salt, oh my God, which you really shouldn't be, use it topically. Because everybody has some kind of skin condition, skin issues, skin this, skin that. There's some kind of, and then if you have even just pain, take like the washcloth or an Ace bandage and soak it in the J juice and wrap it around the areas that you have pain in. And maybe you might see a difference. It may bring on pain, but it may actually alleviate your pain, may heal it pretty quickly. It's hard to say, but at least you may see, at least with topically, with cuts and ingrown toenails and psoriasis and all that stuff, you use it topically and you start seeing the benefits, you realize that the pain isn't going to be last, because you're already going pain anyways. But pain's going to happen for a certain amount of time based upon how long it takes to heal. And then eventually you won't have any pain anymore in that specific area, in that specific system of your body. So that's how you can test things out on a very superficial level, is that you do things topically so you can see. That I did with my dog. In the beginning, I was giving to her like topically because she had like the fatty tumor on her chest. She had skin issues. She had allergic reactions from foods that I was giving her because her immune system was just crap. So I was soaking her in the J juice. Okay, I was taking cotton balls and washcloths and it just kind of, and then I was also putting in her food. I was putting about a half a cup or a cup full of the solids and the liquid in her kibble, and with like chicken and cheese, one of her favorite foods. And so, yeah, she never waterfalled inside. She never diarrheaed inside my house. I know I've given her some of the juice in a cotton ball to where I saw that she did have like some diarrhea, because it was a big, like, huge mucus diarrhea. So there's something that she released that was like in a ball. When I took the shovel to like pick it off and then throw it in the bushes, because I didn't, it was stayed in its form. I didn't have the bravery enough to go and figure out what was in that mucus sac, but I can only imagine what her body released. Okay, so sometimes I will just give her food and then take the cotton balls and just drip it down her throat, and that's a really good concentration of it. And of course, when she's thirsty, she drinks water. Okay, so yeah, so you can see things superficially with the J juice, the benefits, by using it topically. So that's my encouragement to all of you that are still trying to figure this out and still kind of scared and whatever. Just make it. Okay, do the whole the recipe and do it correctly, and then use it topically, and then you can see how fast your body heals from superficial wounds when it, because it's faster than the antibiotics that are out there. Antibiotics are anti-life. Okay, all it does is just doesn't allow pathogens to infect, but it doesn't really allow it doesn't foster really any growth because it's antibiotic. But what makes your body heal with the antibiotics is the fact that you disinfected it, and then your body healed. It wasn't the antibiotics that healed you; it's just your body healed because it had enough resources for it to then close up the wound. Okay, so that's something that I would advise for new people. Oh yeah, so the whole thing with the water. Okay, I know we're all afraid of fluoride. We're all afraid of pathogens and tap water and all that stuff. Hey, Darla, nice to see you, girl. Yeah, we're all afraid of all this stuff. So we're doing all of these water filters and distillers. And yes, in the beginning, I was part of the holistic world, totally promoting water filtration systems, afraid of the tap water, afraid of fluoride, afraid of chlorine, afraid of bleach, afraid of all the stuff, right? And then I realized that after logically looking at my juice and then looking at distilled water, what is distilled water? Well, when you distill water, you look at the bottom of the distiller. It's like this white calcified stuff that you have to kind of like chisel off. And there's an actual chemical solution that helps disintegrate that stuff. Well, those are actually minerals. Now, with people who are imbalanced, who are aging, degrading, have a calcified pineal gland, guess what? You're over mineralized. When you're over mineralized, it's going to cause imbalances. And yes, you're going to have people that say that my pineal gland has been calcified. Well, the reason why is because your body, your system is imbalanced. You're not releasing the excess minerals. And so you're over accumulating minerals, and it's mineralizing parts of your body and causing major anomalies, cancer, disease, chronic illness, aging, and the death. Okay. So with the J juice, we have the 84, 86 trace minerals plus the sodium, plus the water, plus the probiotics, the right probiotics, which is attached to the cabbage and kale. We have the water carrier force. Okay, so we have those minerals that we're putting right back into the distilled water. You need fluoride because you actually look at the trace minerals of the elemental composition of the human body. Fluoride is part of the trace minerals. You find it naturally occurring in your environment. It can be a byproduct from some industrial waste product out there. Yeah, fluoride is fluoride. It's just a mineral. Okay, so when you do J juice, it has already fluoride. Well, when you do J juice, your water and your food supply have fluoride, have minerals, have mercury, have all these different minerals in it. And then guess what? Your body is going to then release any excess minerals, which means any excess fluoride that you're afraid of, excess mercury, excess uranium, excess anything, and then your body is going to absorb. I have amalgam fillings in my mouth. You think I'm having some kind of neurological disorder for having amalgam fillings? No, because my body is able to absorb what it needs. And then maybe potentially, theoretically, maybe in 10, 15, 20 years, I won't see any more amalgam fillings. I don't know. That's something that I'm wondering, but I have not seen any issues with my amalgam fillings. Some people say that their fillings have been pushed out from the J juice because it was already weak to begin with, and the body was able to then release anything excess. But I have not had any issue with my fillings, and I was able to heal despite having my amalgam fillings. So that tells me that the body is able to balance the exposure that I have on a continuous basis, whether it's through the food supply or in my mouth or in the water. And I don't need to do all these crazy measures of getting a water filtration system and avoiding and discriminating and this and that, because it's part of the marketing gimmicks of the holistic industry trying to sell you water filtration systems. Okay? There's a way to balance out your minerals in a more natural, organic, in a natural setting. And that's understanding how your body works. Okay, so you don't even need Brita. What I do is I take tap water. So I have, hey, I'm not saying go to your nearest pond and drink the water from your nearest pond. No, you should boil that water first. Okay, or take iodine and put the iodine. I've done that where I was in the mountains, Mount Whitney, the highest mountain peak in California. I hiked Mount Whitney, 14,500, 498 feet, 15,000 feet. Okay. And I remember that we put iodine when we were way above the timberline and there was water sources out there. We had to put iodine in the water to kill all the pathogens so we can drink the water. I mean, that was a difficult trip. I probably couldn't do it again. I mean, I probably could do it again, but I wouldn't want to. But But yeah, so with the tap water, the water resources in your area, if it's relatively clean, which I'm sure it is, but if there's a scare that there's some kind of like pathogen, like a bacteria, boil the water. But there shouldn't be, because they put enough chemicals in the water, enough elements. That's what chemicals are. They're elements. And sometimes they put chlorine. Okay, so I would smell chlorine. So this is what I would do. I would take my tap water, which I do smell chlorine in my water. So this is Canton City water. And I would fill it at the 2 gallons, I think, that I have. And I put like a cup of my juice in there. It has the lactobacillus, has everything. And I let it sit out overnight on my counter. And then overnight, and then I would put it in the refrigerator. And guess what? The water tastes amazing. I don't need a filtration system. I don't need any distiller. I don't need nothing. And I can drink the water. And guess what? When I do my J juice, and when my system is so well balanced, it's able to excrete any excess minerals. So I'm not over mineralized. And then thinking that, oh my God, I have to detox. Because when people go and do heavy metal detoxes, oh my God, I've been so appalled by some of these naturopathics. When they go do a heavy metal detox, take some, bentonite clay and diatomaceous earth. Bentonite clay is aluminum silicate. The zeolite is aluminum silicate. What's aluminum? It's a heavy metal. It is a mineral. So if you already have too much aluminum or too much minerals in your body and you're taking aluminum silicate, but yet some people, oh, I feel great after that. Well, first of all, you killed off some candida, potentially. You probably anesthetized your body. So now you feel wonderful for a minute. And also, too, when you take in a poison such as aluminum silicate, like bentonite clay or diatomaceous earth or any of those poisons, or zeolite, you take in a poison. When you do take in something like that, you also release hormones, pleasure hormones. That's what drugs are. They release pleasure hormones, because whenever time you poison yourself in some way, pleasure hormones come to surface. It's a way for the body to deal with the amount of poison, because then at some point, then pain is healing. It all comes back. So when you're taking poison, you're messing with your hormones. The oxytocin comes to surface. You're anesthetizing your body. Which means that you're not feeling the pain sensations anymore, because that's the reason why you're taking these heavy metal detoxes. It's not a good idea to over mineralize your body because you're dealing with excess minerals. Okay, it's just not. You got to bring in the right elements, the right mineral combination, and that is the probiotics, that is the J juice, the electrolytes, that's the nutritive element, all that stuff. Okay, but not taking just one specific mineral like aluminum silicate, which is not just, it's like 2 minerals, aluminum and silicate. So you're taking a high concentration of 2 minerals, you're going to basically throw the balance off your body. You're going to cause all these crazy things that you're going to misinterpret those manifestations, those feelings, and you're thinking that you're healing and that you found God or something. Okay, no, your body is now going into some crazy, crazy upset of homeostasis. So there's a way to upset homeostasis the correct way. And over mineralizing your body with aluminum silicate is not the way. No bentonite clay, no kombucha, no diatomaceous earth. And I know some of you have felt like you had a cure, which, yes, cures are all over the market. The reason why the cure industry is so prevalent, because they do work on a temporary basis. But when you rob Peter to pay Paul, is it really good in the long term? Okay, when you're steadily aging but you don't have any more indigestion, well, you just rob Peter to pay Paul. That's not the point of J juice, is to rob Peter to pay Paul. Okay, so as far as in regards to the end times, I bet you, since I used to be part of all these different groups, I still have people that are in groups that I belong to, like the end times and the doomsdayers and all that stuff. So I get a real good cross section of everybody out there. So this is what I want to respond to as far as the end times. I bet you there's a cycle every certain amount of years to clean out the excess. And if you can adapt to the changes, you will be the surviving humans for the next generations to come. So I'm sure there's been a cycle of humans, like with the environment. I'm sure with the flood, there's the antediluvian days, the pre-flood days, and then hi Peter. Oh yeah, Kevin. And then there's that post-flood days. Okay, so back in the flood days, they were washing away anyone that couldn't survive the changes in the environment. And the ones that were able to survive, those are the strong ones. they still stuck around after the flood. Okay, and then there was change in the environment. What used to be really giant now became very small. Evolution, and we learned about evolution, and then how bacteria play a part in it, and as far as turning the switches on and off. Adaptation. When we learned, this is just basic science stuff in the last couple videos that I did. So yeah, I'm sure that we're now entering into a major homeostasis interruption in our environment in the world as far as the climate. Okay, so you guys that know that there is going to be major climate change, and you're feeling the effect, you're seeing society getting a little bit crazier, and not just because of Facebook and social media, but you're seeing people are doing stupider stuff nowadays, and it could be, it's like chicken or the egg. But regardless, the internet has changed the climate, has given us such access to information, and then based upon your mentality is how you're going to process the information. And if your mentality is majorly messed up and you're mutated, you're going to then continue on that same trajectory as if where you were even before the internet, because you're already on that trajectory. The internet just highlighted. So the internet is almost like salt. It's a reflection of your environment. Salt energizes, just salt by itself energizes your environment. It energizes the state that your body, that your environment is in. So that's why I say when you have crystals in your house and you have a mutated body, it's going to just energize the mutations and the negative energy that's in your world. So you have to put your crystals away until you get to a more balanced type of persona. So when with salt, if you're just taking salt but not the J juice, but you're just doing salt and water and that's it, and that's why the people have been afraid of like the whole high blood pressure. Well, that salt energizes your mutations, okay? And so it's just going to energize the state that your body's in. The internet's no different. The internet's going to energize the state that your mental health is in. And some of you are cracking up. Others of you are actually way more logical, because you're now utilizing your brain in such a way that you're actually discerning through the good information and the bad information, and you're letting the bad information go away, and you're keeping the good information because you're working with the right marbles. Those of you who are already majorly mutated and already thinking that the world's gonna die and you're gonna die, the internet is going to confirm that. It's going to be a reflection of your internal environment, your internal state. Okay, so internet and salt and crystals, only using those without any discernment is a reflection of your internal state. Okay, so yes, the amount of research you do on Jilly Juice is a direct correlation of how much you value your life, as well as how you determine your own personal self-worth. So lately, in April, I was dealing with all of the naysayers and all of the trolls and all the journalists who were just talking smack about me. And finally, we put it all to rest. Okay? It's very easy to Google Jilly Juice and find all the naysayers. And believe me, you could spend an hour to a week to probably years, well, not years, and find all the evidence to support what you think is dangerous about J Juice. However, it took me 45 years to develop this protocol, with 3 years introduced to the public. And if you're only given an hour's or even 2 hours worth of research on Jilly Juice with your friend who is recommending it, it shows how little self-worth you're giving yourself. Okay, so if somebody introduces you to J Juice, don't just Google me and say, oh my God, wow, she's crazy, and that's it. There's a whole, here's the thing. I think people need to increase their self-worth and do more than an hour's research on what it means to be alive in the world that is all about death, destruction, and fear. Good, valuable information does not come easy. But see, if somebody gives it to you, it's too easy. So you think it's so easy that they think I'm biased. They'll have all their justifications, right? So it's easier to Google and see what somebody else talks about than listen to the actual, horse's mouth. That's what I understand. Why don't you want to listen to the horse's mouth? But then the horse's mouth, people are afraid of the horse's mouth, because especially if they're already suspecting, they think that I'm just a cult leader that's very good with her words, which I'm very good with my words, but I'm not a cult leader. And they won't listen to anything that I say. They'll listen to what somebody else says, but they won't listen to their friends. They'll listen to strangers. That's what's so messed up about the internet. People will listen to strangers over their friends who are recommending this, okay? But then they listen to their friends over strangers. And their friends say, no, don't do J Juice, and they listen to a stranger. So it's just like, it's the mentality it's the state of your mentality is what will then have you be discerning. And if you're already going to be, doing an hour's worth of research on J juice and that's it, and that's what's going to basically give you the decision, then you're not a candidate, because you're looking for the low hanging fruit, the easy hanging fruit. You don't really want to put forth any effort towards your own health. And so, good valuable information does not really come easy. If you're looking for the easy way out, you can never be a candidate for JJ anyways, because JJ can be difficult for those that have a lot of different issues. So when I say, rumors are carried by haters, spread by fools, and accepted by idiots, it's very pejorative, I know. So idiots, the word idiot is not necessarily bad. However, you must do 100% your capability of research before you believe rumors that are unsubstantiated. How do you substantiate rumors? You check the docket in a court of law in the person's area to see if they've been convicted of a crime. If there's no crime committed, there's no reason to believe the rumors. Okay? All right. That should put that to rest. So yes, humans do have the ability to adapt. We talked about that. New research has shown that thawing permafrost, when you're releasing, carbon dioxide, which is going to make maybe the deserts grow greener. Not a bad thing. Okay, we're going to see a bunch of climate change, okay? And what's causing all of your cancer, disease, and chronic illness is all the viruses that are in your body. All the viruses in your body exploiting the weaknesses in your body because you're not kicking them out. Now, you're not going to kick out viruses 100%. You're going to have a few, which are antibodies, but they'll be under a layer of protection, a coating. The reason why these viruses agglutinate and then you don't have a layer of protection anymore, you don't have just the positive antibody, now you have the disease, is because your immune system is shutting down. Your immune system is weakening, which means that protective layer that's covering the viruses that it's then creating the antibody in your body is now lost and gone, and now these viruses are going to wreak havoc, and it's going to agglutinate and take over and find the weakness in your body, just like a virus in your computer. It finds the weaknesses in your computer, in your central processing unit, and exploit it, and then you'll see crazy things happen with your hard drive, okay? So this is why J juice is so important, is because it not only kicks out any excess antibodies and disperses the antibodies, it also neutralizes the viruses. But you'll always have the antibody in your body, it just won't come up positive on a titer test. When you come up positive on a titer test, it means you have a lot of antibodies, which means it shows the government that you have a layer of protection. But then as you are more imbalanced, those antibodies will then turn into the disease. And that's when you are a high titer test, communicable, and then a candidate for cancer, disease, and chronic illness, because you haven't corrected the balances or the imbalances. So as far as limb regeneration, this is like a memory from a year ago. The process of limb tissue regrowth and the reversal of disease is not possible without a highly functioning immune system that the protocol supports. The autophagy process is a key part of that process. Okay, so you have to have a high functioning immune system, which means that it offers you the absorption of your food supply and then also the excretion of excess, so it doesn't cause imbalances. And with that absorption of the nutrients, then comes cellular regeneration, because you have a blueprint to your body. And if you're missing limbs or missing organs, missing things, the body will find the most aggressive, most severe issue and deal with it. And then you'll see layers of healing. That's why you see layers of healing with the J juice, because the body can't possibly just heal 100% all by itself. I mean, it can heal by itself, but it cannot heal 100% in like one day. It took you 40, 60, 70 years to get this mutated. It may take you a few years. It took me 3 years to get to this point. Some of you have known me back when I first got Sugar. And you saw how Sugar was in the beginning. You saw how skinny she was. Her skin was like her skin was all like yeasty and dandruffy. And you saw her fur was not really fuzzy. It was like a very thin fur. And you see it in animals that when they're not very healthy, their fur is not very prevalent. It's very like and already pit bulls have a very like thin fur anyways. Okay, but now when you see Sugar, you see already just by looking at her, her skin's amazing. It's like soft, like baby pig skin. Her fur is just so fuzzy. It's so soft. It's like when you go to, like, I hate to say this, when you go to like a really expensive fur shop and they've treated those furs with all these chemical treatments to make it so fur and fuzzy and marketable. That's how Sugar's fur is. It feels like something that's been treated chemically. Yeah, it's the chemicals of J juice. and then all of her body processes. So she feels just so soft, and not like this like a brush feeling of you guys know kind of. I'm trying to think of the adjectives to explain, but like a deer fur. Like imagine if deer had a really fuzzy fur, but no, deer is like, you touch it and it's just like, oh, okay, not that coarse. That's right, it's coarse. Her fur was coarse in the beginning, like not super coarse, but coarse. And now her fur is so fuzzy, it feels like a fur coat, like literally a fur coat. It's so different. And I do put the J juice like in her food, I drip down her throat, but I also put it topically on her body as well. So whatever is not that she doesn't take in her mouth, I just put it all over her ears, her face, like, and all over her back and her chest. And she's just like, oh, it's funny. She acts funny around it, but she likes it. And then it energizes her. And then you see like a surge of energy because that's the salt and the nutrients and the probiotics energized her. Okay. So if you've seen what Sugar looked like back in the beginning, you look at her today, she's vastly different. And her demeanor, she doesn't chew as much. My dog does not chew as much like she used to. When a dog is chewing constantly, that's releasing stress and anxiety. Okay. And then I talked about on here on my timeline, what diseases frozen in ice could be hidden in our glaciers. Well, there's so many. I mean, when you have like all these animals that have died, and then the ice age came through and froze up everything. Well, these animals with all their diseases died, froze up too. So when you go into a tomb, like in the tombs in Egypt, those big pyramids, the curse of the pyramids, it's the virus. The virus was released, and those explorers then were exposed to it, and yeah, they succumbed to it. That's how best I can explain what those curses are when people go into tombs. So yeah, the glaciers are like tombs of ancient viruses, ancient bacteria are going to be reintroduced. So now more than ever, we really need to look at J-Juice and not try to use, because literally there's not going to be enough antibiotics in the world that your body will be able to handle, because the more viruses you get exposed to, the more weak your body is, the less effective these antibiotics are, no matter how much they go and create in the lab. The stronger you make these antibiotics, the faster it's going to kill you on a mutated body. It's not going the right direction. I mean, there's like, what is it? There has to be like a way to explain that. Let me see. I know there's a way to picture. So the more virus you have, the stronger the antibiotics. So the more virus you have, the weaker your body is. Weaker, and then the antibiotics are stronger. Then you have this, then you have death. That's all I can say. So this is the viruses and the body. Then you have biotech and, I don't know, big pharma, the same thing. So how does death occur? And this is not really. So you have viruses on a weak body, and they're compounding. So they're making you weaker and weaker and weaker. And then you have biotech that's going to make all their antibiotics and their medications stronger and stronger and stronger. Eventually, guess who's going to win out? The stronger the antibiotics are going to basically kill a person, because that's when then you have death. There, at some point, there's not going to be an antibiotic in the world that's going to help a person who is that mutated. There's not going to be, because the viruses are going to make you weaker because they're getting stronger, and the antibiotics are going to get stronger on a weaker body, and then yeah, death is going to occur. There has to be some kind of name of a formula for that. I'll have to draw that out, I guess. But anyway, so that's where we're headed, okay? That's where we're headed. So we're now seeing if we can get away from the antibiotic world and get into the right probiotic world, so we're not compounding your issues. Because the more antibiotics you put on your body, the more left open you are to more of these opportunistic viruses, especially these ancient viruses that are being released. And I'm watching the ProMed, which is that website. It's also on Facebook that keeps track of the emerging diseases in the world, and they're tracking the Ebola virus. They're tracking that. And I'm telling you, it's starting out small right now. It's like a couple. I mean, what did I see? I should go to that. Let's just real quick. Hold on. So you guys got to see how this works. I mean, right now you're seeing, at this point, this is the emerging diseases and viruses that are in the world. So you see there's certain vaccines that are being created because of these emerging diseases. But look in Africa, Ebola. That's huge. That's like right in your face. Ebola is right in your face. Okay? And then I'm looking at ProMed. I'm following ProMed because they have stuff that comes through my newsfeed all the time. So I'm going to look at ProMed. I'll put that website on my timeline. Or not my timeline, like the comment line. ProMed. Come on. Okay. All right, it's taking a minute. ProMed. Okay. I'm just going to take this really quickly, copy, so you guys can watch all the different emerging diseases, because this is what's going to be the catalyst, if you guys understand this, to do the J-Juice, or you just be a sitting duck. I mean, that's really essentially what it is that if you don't keep track of the stuff and you don't understand this information, you'll just be a sitting duck for all these new and emerging diseases, and you're going to want to live in a bubble. You won't be able to leave your immediate town, because if you go anywhere like the Dominican Republic or anything else, you will be exposed to these rampant viruses in third world countries. Awesome, Aaron. Drink 2 quick cups. Awesome, awesome. Yeah, just slam it, dude. Slam it. All right. Okay, so ProMed. But y'all have to understand it. And this is why the reason behind the vaccine industry. See, if I didn't let go of my conspiracies against vaccines, okay, and all that stuff, I wouldn't be able to really understand this information. All right. Now, here's the thing. If you're doing J-Juice, now this is with my world. Somebody's going to ask me, well, why don't you get your dog vaccinated? Okay. Well, I mean, if there's a need for her to get vaccinated, I would. Right now, there is no need to get her vaccinated because she's doing the J-Juice. So she was attacked by 2 pit bulls back in Memorial Day weekend. And I know these pit bulls had viruses. And I know that when she was exposed to them, her body went to an upset homeostasis. For me being gone for a week, which is already just traumatizing, and then being attacked by 2 dogs in the neighborhood, her whole system was in an uproar. So she had diarrhea, she wasn't eating, and my husband did put the juice like on the wound, but he didn't give her the juice at all because he's just, he's not really good with that. So I'm the one that does that. So when I got home, okay, and it was like, 6 days later, when I got home, I started giving her the juice. I would soak her wounds in the juice. I would give her the juice, and I would drip it down her throat and everything. And she diarrheaed a little, she was still diarrheaing, she was still having issues. And so I knew that her body was releasing any excess viruses. She could have been exposed to rabies. She could have been exposed to whatever those dogs had. Who knows? Parvo, worms. Okay. We know people take care of their dogs, not all the time, really not the same way that I do. So I know she was exposed to the viruses, and she could have been exposed to Lyme disease. Who knows? But I knew with the J-Juice, her body was already strong. So it's already kicking out the viruses and dealing with it. Her diarrhea was the fact that she was getting rid of those viruses. It did upset her homeostasis a bit. And I finally, so when I was giving her the juice, she finally got her appetite back. Yes, she was still diarrheaing for a couple of days, but after 6 days, a week of being on the juice, okay, with me home and getting her back to a routine, she turned around. She started eating. No more diarrhea, solid poop, everything. And now she's back to complete normal. So I don't see a need right now. If I have a need to get her vaccinated, any more vaccines that she needs, then I would. She already got like her rabies shot over at the shelter, but I don't see a need to go in and do booster shots, because no matter what viruses she gets exposed to, she has a very strong body. She'll be able to handle it. And then I do the J-Juice, the body will kick out any excess and repair the damage from that initial exposure. Okay? So the vaccines are necessary for those that aren't really too savvy around nutrition, and they're sitting ducks and exposed, and the government cannot legislate morals and make you understand this information because they don't understand it themselves, obviously. And so what do? They cater to the lowest common denominator and say, okay, if you're not going to, if we're not challenging death in any way, and we know people are sitting ducks and weak immune systems and weak bodies, we have to do the vaccines. And so the vaccines are for people who are very weak, but not too weak, because the vaccines could put them over the edge, but are somewhere in that middle where they're able to still, vaccines are for people who are able to still adapt to their environment relatively well. Okay? Because the vaccines, if you're not a candidate for these vaccines at all, if you can't get any of these vaccines, if you're so injured and you're so weak and you can't get any of these vaccines, then you can't adapt to your environment. If you can get these vaccines without relative issues, I mean, if you can handle these vaccines relatively well, then you're strong enough to handle your environment. If you cannot get get 1 or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10 of these vaccines because of your mutated system, you're not adapting well to your environment. Okay, so yes, if my dog had to get vaccinated for some reason, if she had to, I would do it. But right now there's no reason for it. But if there is, I would do it and she'd be fine. Okay, so that's my view on the whole thing with the vaccine side of it. So anyways, the whole thing with the ProMed. Okay, so the Ebola. So here's the thing. So this is when dashboard. This is the Ebola dashboard. So 151,911 vaccinated persons. So there's 151,911 people who have now the Ebola antibody in their body. And they're also going to be aging. Okay? When you're aging, your body's going to break down and those viruses are going to start coming to surface. 71,941,958 people under control. Then you have 128 contaminated healthcare workers. Those 128 contaminated health workers are going to go back to their respective corners of the earth. And then you have 151,911 vaccinated persons who will also go to the corners of the earth. Ebola DRC KIVU 2018 dashboard reports 9 new cases on July 5th, 2019, making 60 cases so far this week, 272 in the past 21 days, and 2,398 since the outbreak began on August 1st, 2018. Out of the 18,800 contacts, 2,200 are going untraced. There is a discrepancy in case numbers of 2389 versus 2398 most likely due to date difference in tally. Okay, so out of that, I'm telling you, out of that 151,911 vaccinated persons, are they shedding? Well, these things are passed through blood, I'm sure sex, all of that. Okay. All right, so you got to pay attention to ProMed, especially these emerging diseases like Ebola. That's going to be the new pandemic way down the road. I'm not saying it right now, but it may not be way down. It could be sooner than later. I don't know. But do you really want to be a sitting duck? That's what it comes down to. Do you want to be a sitting duck for these emerging diseases? And then when you go down, go down ProMed's timeline, you see, Japanese encephalitis, you see all these different things. And then you see these new diseases out there. Now, some of you will be able to handle the very minimal exposure, but others of you will have the exposure and then you'll have some kind of mutated virus in your body that be a combination of Ebola and Epstein-Barr virus and the parvovirus and what else? The herpes virus, the HPV, the human papilloma virus. So you'll see all these combination of viruses conglomerate and agglutinate together, and now you have a new disease. So So yeah. And then Kevin said antibiotics are already starting to fail and they cause more and more of these superbugs that are resistant to antibiotics. You're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. When we look at the cockroaches, they're getting stronger. Okay. All right. So if cockroaches can get stronger, so can humans. So somehow cockroaches are able to adapt to their environment. Perennials are able to adapt to their environment. We need to take cues from cockroaches. Okay. All right. So anyways, so there's that. Okay. Then there's the whole thing with the earthquake. Then yeah, electrical impulses in your body is much like the radio electrical impulses all over the earth and outer space. When you deaden those signals, life suppression. And then pain signals are like radio signals from signs of life, electrical impulses. A dolorimeter, is an instrument used to measure pain threshold and pain tolerance. That's from the electrical impulses from your body. So when you hit somebody with pain, there is an electrical reaction, or pain. When you poke somebody with a needle, that's electrical reaction. Okay. Dolorimetry has been defined as the measurement of pain sensitivity or pain intensity. So dolorimeters apply steady pressure, heat, or electrical stimulation to some areas or move a joint or other body part and determine what level of heat or pressure or electrical current or amount of movement produces a sensation of pain. Sometimes the pressure is applied using a blunt object or by locally increasing the air pressure on some areas of the body, and sometimes by pressing a sharp instrument against the body. Okay, so pain signals are like radio signals from signs of life, electrical impulses, steady. And then I got into like memory. Your memory is based upon the biochemistry. So if your memory is crap, your biochemistry is going to crap. Okay. All of the negative memories that you stored up in your body that you've suppressed through drugs and alcohol and sex and all of that does turn into cancer because it causes weaknesses. So when you're constantly trying to get a release, whether it's a sex release, whether it's a drug release, whether it's an exercise release, because people know that exercise releases are also detrimental. It's because you're dealing with imbalances and imperfections and weaknesses in your body. And then you're causing more because you're putting more strain on your body. So what you fear is basically what you create. When you fear something, you know subconsciously what you are creating. You are creating the conditions to justify the reason for the fear. Projection comes out in fear. So somebody asked me, or somebody said, I hope that, I'll stay in your life for a long time, Jillian. I hope I do. And I'm like, where is this coming from? Why would somebody say, well, because there's a fear that I'm not going to be in their life. Why is there a fear there? Because maybe somewhere in the background, you're creating something that would cause somebody to then put a boundary down. See, people will tell you exactly what it is they're creating in their life when they project the fear onto you. Okay? When someone says, I hope that we stay friends forever, I hope we do this, then there's something that's going to be challenging that. Because when you say, I hope we stay friends forever, I hope you're in my life for a long time, and you talk about it, then it means there's something that could potentially challenge that concept that you're trying to mitigate of somebody not being in your life. And then what happens, that's like a foreshadowing. And I saw that evidence just within the last week. Someone foreshadowed that. And then they triggered me. And then this is, and then right there, I'm like, oh my God, what this person said was a foreshadow of then this trigger. And it wasn't like I knew, it wasn't like those two were, no, it was just the fact that I was just like, okay, no, I'm not going to be joining or doing or, whatever. And so it's like, and that's when I got on the whole thing about the triggers. And when somebody triggers and oversteps boundaries and you trigger, you have to put down boundaries. And sometimes you have to let go of relationships. It's easier to work with someone that loves you a lot. When someone hates you, it's definitely, it's harder to work with them. So that's more of an individual process and learning experience. But just so you know, whatever you're afraid of something, whether it's assault, whether it's being in a relationship with somebody, if you are afraid that the relationship's going to break up in some way, then you're creating the conditions for it to break up in some way. If you're afraid the salt's going to kill you, then you're creating the conditions that something is going to kill you. And it's not the salt. Okay? You are actually projecting what you are doing to the relationship, to yourself as well as other people. When you have no fear, it means you pretty much have a control over everything in your life for the most part. And you know what you can control and you know what you can't control. So there's no fear. Okay? So that was a really huge aha revelation. Oh my God. And that's why I went really off on the whole thing about triggers. Because I don't know how to say to somebody in the same thing in so many different ways. I mean, sometimes you just run out of ways to say things and you're like, okay, if they get it, great. If they don't, I don't know what to say. Then you have to cut off the relationship because they don't get it. Okay? And I don't want to do that with people that I love. But sometimes tough love is you have to cut off communication because they don't get it and they're going to still stay stuck in the world, in that little path that they have, that little hamster wheel that they keep running on. All right? So life is fractals, infinite and everlasting, with formulas and laws that are, yes, purely chemical. Okay? Chemical reactions create everything we live and breathe. Words create worlds and thoughts, and chemicals and elements ignite the creation of words, which then create the worlds that we live in. Without words, you guys wouldn't have all of this world that we live in. Words create language. Language creates then perceptions and realities. Okay? This is huge. And then I talk about like asteroids and comets are vectors penetrating Earth's atmosphere, impregnating Mother Earth, thus creating life. This is my idea, which has already been out there, but that did the comets and did the asteroids, when they hit Earth, did it create the signs of life, the bacteria, and it evolved into different things? And no different than the sperm and the egg, the Big Bang Theory, which is basically the expansion of the universe, expansion of life. And then we broke it down to sperm and ejaculation liquids houses the prostaglandin hormone, sensation of pain, aids in the healing process. But also a teaspoon of 5 milliliters is made up of water, sugar, protein, vitamin C, zinc, and prostaglandins. Semen or seminal fluid is a mixture of sperm and secretions of the seminal vesicles, prostate gland, and the bulbourethral glands. So the head of sperm contains the nucleus. The nucleus holds the DNA of the cell. The head also contains enzymes that help the sperm break through the cell membrane of an egg. The midpiece of the sperm is packed with mitochondria. The mitochondria are organelles in cells that produce energy. And then salt energizes them too, because if you don't have the electrolytes, how do you energize the mitochondria? And then there's bacteria. Lactobacillus helps energize that and help and aid in that. And there's other bacteria that are pathogenic. So you have to know the difference between the right bacteria and the wrong bacteria. And that's some of the help with Kevin about mitochondria. And he's going to go into some of those details. So yeah, so scientists just capture the flash of light, that spark when sperms meet an egg. So the Big Bang Theory, the expansion of life in space, asteroids, comets, penetrating Mother Earth, there's a correlation. And then talk about if you break down the time you spend in each room of your house, you might see a pattern emerge. See, I spend more time in my living room on my couch than I do in the bathroom, the kitchen, and the bedroom. Okay, so if you're always in the bathroom and in the bedroom, you have a sickness going on. Now, if you're in a studio apartment, then you have to realize that what you're doing, how you like categorize your room based upon what you're doing. So if you're always lying prostrate, or if you're always lying down watching TV and you're sick, always in the bathroom back and forth, then you know there's something going on. If you're doing something like in your living room, like, doing Facebook, or you're on your computer, or you're producing, then you're living. Okay. So, and then if you're always in the kitchen, then you're always feeding, and you're always in the bathroom, you're always eliminating, and then you're in the bedroom, but you're not really living. But then you're out there in the world. Some people live out there in the world. That's great. But you got to come back and you got to regenerate. So if you're out there in the world too much, or you're not in your bedroom enough, then you're not replenishing, you're not regenerating. You have to be in your bedroom a certain amount of time to regenerate if you're out there in the world all the time. Okay? And if you're not in the bathroom around the same amount of time that you're eating, then are you accumulating? See, things can get broken down to such a scientific, to where if you're doing too much eating but not enough eliminating, then yeah, you're accumulating. I probably spend as much time in the bathroom that I do eating because I make sure I eliminate. All right, so being asymptomatic indefinitely living, you have adapted and conquered your environment. Okay, which means that you can be exposed like I did. I had a green phlegm this morning. And I'm like, what the heck? Because I hacked it up this morning. I woke up, I hacked it up. The only thing that I noticed was different is I've been taking naps around 3 o'clock in the afternoon, like in the last couple days. So I could have been fighting off some kind of flu virus or some kind of virus been exposed to. And so, but I didn't really have any symptoms. I mean, sleeping is a body way to restore. So, okay. And we've been really chill and relaxed anyways. So taking a nap is a great thing. But I hacked up a little, green loogie, and I'm like, okay, interesting, cool. But I don't have any symptoms except for sleeping a little bit more than I usually do. But I still get up at 6 in the morning, and I still go to bed like around 9 or 10, 11 at night. Okay. So then I said, love and hate are spiritually connected. Love is easier to work with. Hate can be a catalyst for individual growth. Love is a catalyst for future collaboration when all parties are ready. Okay. So yeah, so then I asked, what methodology do you use to manage your stress release? How often it happens is a direct correlation to your balanced or imbalanced biochemistry. And here's a big thing here. Yeah, when you're always looking for that constant release because of anxiety and stress, as well as cancer, disease, and chronic illness, maybe you should take a look at your hormonal imbalances. When dogs chew, they are releasing stress and anxiety. When dogs chew on a constant basis, they are continuously stress and anxiety ridden. Exercise is a release, just FYI. When you are constantly going to therapy, whatever it is, whether it's energy therapy, hormone therapy, immunotherapy, psychotherapy, you are looking for a release because your body cannot naturally do it on its own because you don't give it what it needs. There will be a time when you won't have to be looking towards therapies to help you release the toxic energy, hormones, and elements because your body will naturally do it on its own and repair itself from those initial exposures without you feeling the transition. Why people feel the transition from their negative exposure to then the repair and the regeneration sequence, which is basically sickness, is because they have weak systems and weak bodies. There will become a time to where you'll be exposed to a pathogen and your body will go through the processes so quickly that you won't even feel it. Maybe you'll see a loogie here. Maybe you need to have a little bit more sleep here. And that's about it. Sleep and loogie, that's it. No major symptoms and all that stuff. No headaches, no stuffy nose, no, inflammation, nothing. It'll just be what you would naturally do anyway, sleeping and then hawking up and blowing your nose, sneezing, okay? When people feel the transition from their negative exposure to then the repair and regeneration sequence is because they have weak systems and weak bodies. Balancing your biochemistry is crucial to your body, mind, spirit, energy, and hormones. All right? So if you're constantly getting energy manipulations, then there's a stagnation somewhere. When you're going for massages constantly, when you're going for acupuncture, when you're going for any of these therapies that are out there, and you're going for a release, whether sexual or exercise, you have imbalances. Now you can balance all that out and be able to take part in massages occasionally, have sex occasionally, run occasionally. But you do too much, you're going to cause an imbalance. And this is where the whole thing with the triggers. Triggers are caused by people crossing boundaries. Triggers are messages from the universe giving you information. Pay attention to your triggers. Somebody crossed the line. The closest people to you can trigger you. They are that close to you, and you chose to entertain them. It's your fault as much as theirs until you draw a boundary. Personal boundaries are crucial. Regeneration, boundaries, balance of positive and negative elements equals peace. Like minds will align. You can't force people together. You cannot force people together. No matter how much you think that they should be together, you cannot force misaligned energies together. Don't even try. People who are misaligned for various reasons will repel each other. They will stay away from each other. for good reason, because they'll do nothing to enhance each other at all. Don't force misaligned people together. It'll turn into a tinderbox, and then they'll resent you for it too. Keep the peace. Allow things to happen organically. Let the universe will it to happen. If you believe the universe is in control, the universe will be in control. And if your people are meant to be together, they will be together. If they're not, then they're not. Don't force it. And that's it. The best way to transition to another person's thought process is to allow them to see a person's daily post. See, if you want to transition to me onto somebody else's protocol, I'm telling you, I'm not promising you I'm going to be collaborating or promoting or propagating or anything or promoting anybody other than J-Juice. But if you want me to see their thought process, then they should have no problem, accepting my friend request. If they have a problem accepting my friend request and they deny my friend request, I have a problem with that, especially if you want us to get together so much, because we're both leaders in our own virtual communities. So if a leader doesn't allow another leader to then be a friend, then it's not someone I'm willing to hang out with, because they have something to hide. And then when I do if I do more research on them and I see certain things and I'm like, yeah, it already confirmed what I already know. I don't need to explain why it is that I'm not attracted to a person. I don't need to justify it, but people force me to do that. So I do, and then they get me on a trigger, and then there you go. So the best way to transition to another person's thought process is to allow them to see a person's daily posts. And if someone doesn't accept your friend request and their posts aren't public, then what are they hiding? And why won't they allow you to see their world if they are an influence in their community? Don't just add people to groups and cold turkey, throw them into the mix. You allow them to transition on their own if it is something that is appropriate. Don't pressure your friends and family to do your own protocol, whatever it is, as well as Jilly Juice protocol. Imbalance is when you cross boundaries. Pressure is the sure way to disenchant anyone. And then you can overlove somebody as well as hate something. That's when that would be an imbalance. Love isn't the answer. It's a balance between love and hate and boundaries and protection. And then I got into, here's the video that I did earlier. What fosters an environment for cancer, disease, and chronic illness, and all that stuff. So that's the timeline. And that's kind of where my head's been at since the last time I did a video. And so, those of you that are just starting the J-Juice and all that, go to my YouTube. My YouTube has a lot of videos that will give you kind of like it's a lot of videos. But really just like get the book. And I'm not going to be discontinuing the book, but I will be revising some of the information in my next book. But I'm going to keep the book that I have currently, even with the conspiracy of anti-vax, because people have to know where I came from, and that I'm able to hold an argument on both ends. I can hold an anti-vax argument, and I can hold a pro-vax argument. Hey, Karen, thank you. Okay, so if you can hold both arguments and understand both sides of the issue and convince people your thought process on both sides of the issue, then you understand the argument. And then whatever side that you take on, you better have specific measurable results to then show your belief system. And if you believe people should die, then it doesn't matter what really you believe in, because in the end result is going to be death. Okay? Whether pro-vax or anti-vax, no matter what, it's going to be death. But I have a larger picture in mind. I have a bigger picture in mind, and that is indefinite life, and that is the humans have the ability to adapt regardless of the changing conditions. Now, if like a huge asteroid that was bigger than Earth came and basically obliterated us all, there's no amount of J-Juice that's going to then mitigate against that. But if there are slight changes or even extreme changes in the environment, but yet we still have the technology and the know-how to then counter it, then let's do it. Okay? That's what it comes down to is understanding that you have a specific balance in your body, the elemental composition of the human body. The first 9 elements are what your body needs predominantly, and that's electrolytes, oxygen, air, water, all that stuff. And then the last 20 or 30 elements is trace minerals. Your body needs those in some form or another, in some exposure, and you get that already in your environment, in the food supply, in the water, in the air. And then you have a specific biochemistry, a specific law of your body that should be able to release any excess and absorb what it needs and still keep you well functioning well balanced, well thought out, everything. And then living indefinitely. Okay? All right, you guys, have a great weekend. Thanks so much. Happy Sunday.